Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie. I work for FÖP, the Association of Austrian Waste Management Companies, and I have the honor today to tell you a little bit about a pilot project we did back in 2023 to try to encourage consumers to return their old batteries. I actually just noticed that I forgot to add the standard introduction slide, so I'm just going to tell you on the audio track a little bit about FÖP. We are the voluntary representation of commercial operating waste management companies in Austria. We have been around for over 40 years. We represent around 260 member companies on the national level as well as the European level. And maybe just for you, out of interest, the Austrian waste management sector comprises about 30,000 people in roughly 3,000 companies, municipal as well as commercial. And we have an annual revenue as a sector of around 9 billion euros. Wow. I have been with FÖP for 1.5 years only, so I was not part of that pilot project, but I hope I can answer any questions there might be anyways. So in the beginning, maybe a little bit about why we actually did that project and why we spent money on it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the hazard part, but just because I think it's important to know why we did this, and also because we have some very fresh data on that subject that I think might be interesting. So in Austria, we have a growing challenge basically with the correct disposal of batteries, and especially lithium batteries. Growing because the sale of batteries is increasing every year, and especially the rate of lithium batteries is increasing. So currently, we have around 50% of all batteries, device batteries, are lithium-based, and that number was just around 30% a couple of years back. And of course, that makes sense because lithium batteries, they are far lighter, they have a higher energy density, so it's just sensible to put them in a lot of products, from smartphones to toys, etc., etc. And so while the put on market number is increasing every year, the collection rates in Austria have actually been stagnant for a lot of years now. We hover around 50% collection rate for batteries. So it's been between 47 and 53 just in 2024. But the number for the collection rate for lithium batteries is far lower. Since 2018, we have been collecting lithium batteries separately. And we are now around, as of 2024, around 70.2% for the collection rate of lithium batteries, which is a stark contrast to how the number of lithium batteries is increasing. Part of this can be attributed to the fact that we do not quite have the right collection or the calculating methods for the collection rate, because lithium batteries have a far longer lifetime. But that's not just the whole story. And we also have to increase those collection rates. The EU target sets us to 73 by 2030. And we think that closing this quite huge gap requires a new approach in consumer engagement. That's the very fresh data that I was mentioning before. We actually just recently did a study with the Technical University of Leoben in Styria in Austria on batteries found in residual waste. So over the last couple of months, the university analyzed around 10 tons of residual waste in Austria. And what we found was, I think, actually quite drastic. So in those tons, we found 48 batteries per ton of residual waste, and over 8 lithium-based batteries per ton of residual waste. We lastly did a study like this in 2016, and we're now seeing a 4-fold increase in lithium batteries in residual waste compared to 2016. So 300% increase over 10 years. And if we round it up to the residual waste that we have annually in Austria, that's around 17 million lithium-based batteries in residual waste. So basically 17 million possible little fires, because we know that improperly disposed lithium batteries pose serious fire risk in the waste streams, and they're also really valuable raw materials that is lost by this. And mind you, this is just the residual waste. We also find a lot of lithium batteries, for example, with e-cigarettes in the plastic waste stream, or with singing greeting cards in the paper stream. We also had an interesting part of this study was that the students analyzed one garbage truck, and in that single garbage truck, we found around 28 lithium batteries. So while our facilities are now quite well equipped with fire detection and fire suppression, the garbage trucks are mostly not yet. So that's also a lot of fire hazards. Yeah, also because I guess pictures say more than words, just some dramatic pictures from last year, for example. We had quite huge fires in the waste management industry. These are just like fires that are covered by mainstream media. Part of that study we did with the University of Lyon is also a long time fire monitoring in the waste management industry. And as you can see on the graph on the bottom, the fire incidents have been steadily increasing year by year, where the last 2 years are like even a more drastic outlier. And this again is just the tip of the iceberg, because those are the fires that are reported in media and where the data is publicly available. So our companies report up to 6 fires daily that are of course put out by their systems and by the people working there. And this data is not represented in that graph. So say we have an even bigger problem. Yeah, and so that's why we I don't know if you can also just see half of the slide, because for me it only shows the top bottom, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So we see a couple of possible solutions to that problem. One, of course, is awareness raising. We do have a national campaign in Austria, which is called Her mit Leer, which has been running from 2021 to 2024 and has now just been renewed for another 3 years. So that company is responsible, or that project is responsible for awareness raising, and they're also responsible for like putting collection boxes in grocery stores, for example. We can also try to make the return process for consumers much more convenient, for example, by installing more collection points. We have around 1,000 municipal waste collection points in Austria, and we can return batteries at grocery stores or at stores that sell electronic products. And this is always a 0 to 1 return, so you don't have to buy a new product to return the batteries. We are also increasing those collection points, hopefully this year, with amendment to our V directive, so that we can also return small electronic devices with batteries in them at small stores, which has not been possible previously, also without the need to purchase something beforehand. But like as I showed you in the first slide, we have been doing those two things for quite a couple of years, and still the collection rates remain at a quite steady and low level. So we sort of think we've reached a glass ceiling with those methods. That's why we looked into incentive project, because we think that it makes sense to give value to waste. And as we see with, for example, beverage packaging deposit return systems, those systems can help drastically increase collection rates. So now a little bit about the project. It was called PET Incentive. It ran from mid-April to the end of November in 2023. We did the project in Feldbach in Styria, which is a town of about, I think, 30,000 people. We had 8 company partners that were part of the project. It was, for example, the PRO for we in Austria. We had DigiCycle, which is a company that develops an app for incentivization and also information for consumers. We had a couple of waste management companies as a partner, and we also had insurance companies as partners. And then we had 12 participating retail stores in the Feldbach region, which were mostly electronic and sports stores where they sell products with lithium batteries. And the main tool that we used for that project was the DigiCycle mobile app, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on. So, of course, our core objective was to increase the collection rate of lithium batteries through consumer incentives, and also to document and learn from that project to see if incentivization generally works, to see if a digital solution works, and to see how that project helps us to develop similar solutions in the future in Austria. So how it actually worked. In the beginning of the project and through all of it, we informed the citizens of Feldbach through local media posts, as well as the participating retailers. So we had flyers and posters at the store that informed the customers that if they buy a new product with a lithium battery in it, they can return an old battery and they will basically receive a voucher valued at 10 euros for that. That second part is grayed out for a reason I will tell you later on. But basically, in the beginning, you then would, when purchasing a new device or a new lithium batteries, you would get a voucher with a unique QR code sticker. Then you would go home, stick that, find an old battery. I will also tell you, so the batteries that were eligible for this project were basically fist-sized lithium batteries. So we were looking for batteries that you usually see in power tools or gardening tools. We did not, in this project, include small batteries like the AAA batteries, for example. That was all explained on the flyer, on the posters, as well as on the website that we made for the project and in the app. So then you would stick your QR code sticker on an old battery and return that battery to that retailer, to a different retailer in that region that was also participating, or to the municipal waste center in Feldbach. Then you would use the app, the DigiCycle app, which was an app that was existing previously, but we sort of developed further for this project. You would use that app to scan your own code, and the staff member at the retail center or at the municipal center would also scan a code to basically confirm the return of an old battery. With this done, you would collect coins in an app. Basically, you get 1,000 coins for one returned battery, and then you could redeem those coins for a coupon, which was valued at 10 euro, which was called 8 cities voucher, which was basically which is a voucher that already exists in that region that you can use for retail stores around the Feldbach area. You can see at the bottom, that's basically how the app looked. So you had your QR code scanning, you had your point redemption, and then you could collect in the app store those points for your voucher. That was all existing. So that process in the app was existing previously for different projects, but we then specifically designed it for this project. I think we're going to post in the chat also the link to the website that we built for this project. You can have a look. Unfortunately, it's only in German. It's quite a long time ago. So, I mean, I know there's an English button, but that sends you to a different site. But basically, the website tells you the process again, also shows all the retailers that are participating and where they are, and also has a small little FAQ on the bottom. So what we also did in the project, so we wanted to try out a few things. So basically, mid of the project or towards the end of it, we had a little change in strategy to see if we could increase the return rate even further. So before, as I mentioned, you had to go in the store, you had to buy a new product, and then you would get the voucher to return an old battery. So basically a one-to-one return system. What we did with that change in strategy, we basically removed that purchase barrier because in our analysis, we saw that not a lot of people at that time from April to August were buying new products, and also they weren't sometimes properly informed at the stores on this project. So what we did, we removed the purchase barrier. We sent the information and the voucher to all citizens in Feldbach by mail. And basically I told them, you can bring back an old batteries to the retail stores or to the municipal waste center without the need to buy a new product first. And that change in strategy, as you can see, quite drastically increased the number of returns, so that by end of November, we then reached our goal, which was around 500 returned batteries. We came up to, I think, 450 then in the end. Part of that project was also then we also tried a little gamification aspect with it, that into all participants, we would raffle a spa voucher, I think valid at 200 euros. And we also promised that if we would reach our goal, we would donate to a youth center in the Feldbach area, which we did in the end. So yeah, so I guess the results for us from our project was that firstly, we saw a lot of interest in the project. We had very good national media coverage during the project as well as afterwards. And we definitely saw an increase in return in that time in the Feldbach area. So we compared the returns in Feldbach compared to surrounding municipalities. In Feldbach, we saw a 32% increase in returned batteries at that time, where in surrounding municipalities where they were not part of that incentive program, we only saw an increase of 5%. I think we also saw incentives work as well in theory, because we did a survey in the Feldbach region where we firstly asked people how many old batteries they have lying around in households, which the survey showed that in general people have around 10 products with lithium batteries or batteries in them. I think newer studies show that we are up to 20 products right now. And that study also showed that around 70% of people would collect or return more batteries and dispose them properly if they were rewarded for doing so. I guess, no surprise. What we did since then, or how we went on from this little project. So for us, that project showed that incentivization works. It also showed for us that digital supported way to basically incentivize people for returning batteries works as well. The project that we had was a little bit too complicated with the QR code sticker and then redeeming it in the app and then getting a voucher. So what we have been looking into since then is more of an AI image-based recognition method, for example, that should make the process a little bit easier. And we're calling this basically a cashback system. It's similar to a deposit return system, but has a couple of differences, because we know that batteries with their long lifetime are not exactly perfect for a deposit return system. When you think of the beverage packaging deposit return system, you have to keep a coupon, and if you have to, for example, keep a coupon for 7+ years lifetime of your battery, you would probably lose or forget that. So the cashback system basically works a little bit different. It works similar to the pilot project we did in Feldbach. So basically you can turn equivalent or any other old battery you have back home and then get rewarded for it. We have been working on a concept like this for the last years. This year, we also got support from it from the scientific side, so that we're also seeing if such a cashback project could also be economically feasible in Austria. So yeah, that's it on our little project. And if you have any questions,